Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Joker, aka Joker's Wild, um, aka used to be LegoBrat86 channel. Uh, Still go by the hashtag of LegoBrat86, but um, had to change a few things because of my personal name being targeted for internet scams, frauds, and other things. But that's besides the point, right? We're not going into any negativity this time around. But what I am going to try and do, this is going to be a one-off video because I don't really go delve into history too much. But we are going to go through the history of how the U.S. government could get to the point where they take no accountability, no resource management accountability, no financial accountability, and why this is happening. So, let me tell you a story. Okay? You go back in time to 1913. What happened in 1913? Let's see. 1913, the Titanic sank, right? That's number one. Along with the only banker opposed to a one world bank. Number two, you have the Rothschilds and some of the other financial gurus heckling Congress. Three, you have the 16th Amendment, which clears out the Federal Reserve of financial liability should the state fail. Creates the IRS, aka the Internal Revenue Service, basically authorizing income tax and authorizing the fact that the federal government owns schooling. That is the 16th Amendment in a nutshell. So, the 16th Amendment, if we're being honest, permits the U.S. government, the federal government, not the state or local government, which was at the time how schools were run, owner and operator of the schools. Two, under the executive branch. And two, permits income tax. The reason why you can't find it in tax law is because it doesn't exist in tax law. It exists in the 16th Amendment. The 16th Amendment is what allows for income tax. That needs to be abolished because it's technically thievery with how the government is spending it. And the 16th Amendment also removes the accountability of the government at large for the financial processes. Now, after the 16th Amendment, right, that's when the U.S. became a puppet state, or the leaders in power actually had no physical power. We were given the illusion of choice. Until Donald J. Trump, of course. But that's besides the point. Then you go to JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, that president, right? He promises no war. He was the first president since to announce that he was running on a no war platform. No war. Remember, this is the Cold War. There is not a physical war between Russia and America. There's only, think of it like a comedy roast, right? We roast them, they roast us verbally, not with actual weapons of mass destruction, aka WMDs, or MAD, which is mutually assured destruction. Okay? It is because of John Fitzgerald Kennedy that we have the red phone in the Oval Office. the direct line to the Russian leadership in order to nullify battle tendencies between both countries, because we've both been estranged to each other since World War II. We're not technically enemies, we're not technically frenemies, we're not technically allies, but we are unilaterally the two biggest powerhouses when it comes to governmental control, other than China. China's the third wheel in that, but China and Russia are both, what do you call it? I'm going into a tangent off base, but basically, what I'm saying is the reason the school system sucks, the reason the medical system sucks, the reason why 90% of these things that we deal with on a daily basis in the US suck is because of the 16th Amendment. 16th Amendment gave the government teeth, gave the government teeth to go after those that did not pay their taxes, which technically, if we're going by the Constitution, taxes are illegal. If we're going by the base Constitution, taxes are illegal. Unless it's in time of war and for payment of war reparations, taxes are illegal. You are not supposed to be taxed anything for that. So Trump's tariff plan is just a return to status quo. Trump's Doge team, who is in charge of finding out how we were spending money the last 50 plus years under the 16th Amendment before he abolishes the 16th Amendment and destroys the IRS, means that, one, things are starting to change. Things are starting to shift. There is going to be a great financial reset before the end of the Trump era. There is going to be a full on government reset if Trump does his job correctly, in the fact that there will be a red wave in 2 years, and there will be a red wave for the foreseeable future until the Democrats actually decide to fix their department that they want to see in the world. If you're going to follow a shadow government, you shouldn't be in office. If you're going to do it for the money, you shouldn't be in office. The way that the founding fathers made the government was so that everybody served. Everybody that wanted to or could had a right and an obligation to serve in the government for at least 4 years. The fact that we don't have that policy, except for inferred through the Constitution, tells me that the politicians, one, can't understand the language of the Constitution, two, can't really defend the Constitution, and three, don't care about the Constitution, which they, by law, oath to protect and defend. They don't. They don't oath to protect and defend the people. That's the Constitution's job, is to protect the people from the government. The Constitution is a legal document saying this is what the government's going to do. This is your part of the government, people. And if the government fails you, this is the steps to go through. Very simple, plain English. Technically, the Constitution of the United States is one sheet about yay big. The Constitution of the United States is that big. For the writing of the time and the fact that it was handwritten and it was written basically in 24 font English, or 24 font in Word. Let's just put it that way. 24 font. An old English font in, if you were to type it up in a Word document, you'd find it to be very interesting, eerily close to the actual thing. The fact that John Hancock was the first signature and signed the biggest signature of them all because of his own self importance. Now, John Hancock also had a small prick, according to um, historical storytelling, but we're not going to go into John Hancock's small dick. Uh, the reason he signed so bigly was so that everybody could see his name. The reason why everybody else signed so smallly is so that and signed very poorly is because John Hancock was a patriot, right? He didn't care. There were everybody that signed got a copy, a handwritten copy of the Declaration of Independence, meaning that there's more than enough original copies to make it so that there are at least 200 physical copies there. Most of them were hidden in plain sight because why? Let me tell you why. The British, if they won, which technically they didn't surrender. We are technically even 250, almost 250 years later, we still are owned by the British. The British gave us a treaty of pardon. We are still under the monarchy in regards to the law because while they gave us a pardon for our treason and they gave us the ability to become our own colony per their own documentation, they did not technically release us from their government. So, U.S. citizenry, if you're listening, you are technically dual citizens. Though the government won't actually confirm or deny it, you are actually a dual citizen. You are a U.S. citizen and a UK citizen at the same time as you are in the U.S. But that is another tangent based off of historical documentation that I'm not going into. Basically, the agreement is hey, we're going to stop fighting you, our brothers. We're going to stop the bloodshed. We're going to give you this country, right? And we're going to not interfere with your politics unless you betray us. Which technically, there have been several times where the U.S. has messed up. One of them was in World War One, selling to both sides. The English didn't like that. They blockaded Europe because they didn't like us selling to both sides. We didn't want to be part of the war, but we sure as hell wanted to make money from the war. The second time that we pissed off the British was World War Two, when we said, "Hey, every single country you own land claim to across the globe, which was about Great Britain had about 60% of the globe of the island nations and all that sort of stuff under their command." They said, okay. We're not going to take um, restitution for World War II. We're going to release all of our nation assets that we did. That really, that really did not make England very happy because they'd been in power in those countries for 90 plus, no, over between 300 and 800 years they'd been in power in those small island nations and countries. And you can tell which countries were owned by the British. You want to know why you can tell which ones were owned by the British? Because every country in the civilized world, other than Britain and the countries therein that they control, drive on the right side of the road. The British and other nations therein that were conquered by the British drive on the left side of the road. So that is how you can tell if they were under British occupation until vehicles came into play, is how do they drive? Now, that is besides the point. I'm getting into multiple tangents that don't really matter. What I'm trying to say is Doge, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, is technically a necessary evil to fix the underlying issue of the government. And the main issue to freedom and democracy and business is that 16th Amendment. But before you can take away the 16th Amendment and abolish the IRS, you have to be aware of what is going on in the government. You have to understand that we have spent almost 100 years without the government being audited. It used to be each presidency would have to audit. Up until the time of Abraham Lincoln's death, Abraham Lincoln died committing to the first audit of the United States government. The next person who audited the government was John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He got shot. The third person who wanted to audit the government is Donald J. Trump. And the best part about Donald J. Trump is he's prepared for all contingencies. He's got a dead man switch. And what a dead man switch is let's say a person in power dies, right? Or is murdered. What that does is it permits the military to enter a state of martial law. It permits it permits the military to hunt down and slaughter the people that caused the death of the president. And it basically gives the president of the United States teeth post mortem to finish up what needs to be done. And what Trump ran on was clearing out the corruption, cleaning out the financial fraud, and fixing the government from within. That's what he ran on. And thus far, he's done a bang up job, in my opinion, of doing what he promised. Just because he promised something does not mean that it's going to happen. Um, and honestly, based off of history, I can tell you that I can honestly tell you that there are a lot of things that will happen in the near future. There's going to be a financial reset, a mental health reset, a medical health reset. There's going to be resets all over the place for the government and the policies therein. And people are actually going to be able to get the help they need. That is the point. And honestly, I could not be more proud to be an American at this time under the elation, the, under the leadership of Donald J. Trump, regardless of the lies that the news tells about him. I've watched enough news in my time and been in the military long and was in the military long enough to know when the news told something that was happening prior to it actually happening. The news is the biggest leaker of military intelligence. I was tried in the military for spillage, but CNN actually spilled the beans before I did. Before I even emailed my family, my girlfriend. CNN and the local newspapers in the Philippines which is where my girlfriend resided at the time, already had news captures of our ship going about to go through the Taiwan Strait transit. I didn't leak anything. They say I did, but I technically didn't because technically it was leaked four times prior to my sending the emails to my family. And if so, if I had leaked anything and I had gotten confirmed, me and my parents would both be in jail right now instead of where we are now, at home, safe and secure. As you can see, I'm watching The Empire Strikes Back, a very fitting, or I'm listening to The Empire Strikes Back on stream because technically my TV is in my main bedroom, not my office. But um, basically, it's a very good feel for what's happening. Um, the government is about to crumble. You're not going to, unless you're looking at it with eyes that are clear of hatred and anxiety, you're not going to see that the government is starting to crumble beneath their feet. The politicians are very, very nervous. You're not going to see that because they play their roles well. Um, you're going to see a lot more people, a lot more politicians trying to go after Trump again in the next 6 to 8 months. You, uh, legally speaking, even though they technically, until they can impeach the man, again, Congress has to impeach before any due process can be made per the Constitution. So you're seeing these politicians running around on the telly telling them how it's illegal what Trump is doing, but not being able to do anything about it because they have to impeach him first. You have to impeach a sitting president before you can take power away from him or even sue him or legally harm him during his time in office. Except for an assassination, which again you can't really assassinate a president with a dead man switch. I've already told you the error in that logic. Unless you want mutually assured destruction, global annihilation, or MAD, mutually assured destruction. See, the thing is Trump is smart. He knows that he has enemies on all sides. He's defending his own honor and pride and personal ability to do his job by basically saying, hey, enemies, if you do this, this happens. Bye. He's technically legally within his right to have a dead man switch clause in his presidential executive orders. He's technically able to, by law, um, audit the federal government, especially the departments under the purview of the president, which is USAID, which was put under the president in the 50s, um, the Social Security Service, also under the executive branch, education, under the executive branch, the federal budget, also approved by the executive branch, and it's up to the executive branch on how the funds are dispersed. And because we had no governmental entity that wanted to audit the government, wanted to protect the people of the United States from this major, major fraud effort, we've been frauded our entire lives. Some of us, all our adult grown lives. All for what? A promise. And let me tell you what that promise is. You work hard enough, you work long enough, you get to the age of 65, and you are guaranteed this amount of Social Security. Wow. What is Social Security? Well, it's SS. So Social Security could also be changed to social slavery. Not social slavery. No. So Social Security is social slavery, just like insurance is like bail bonds. You buy insurance so you don't have to pay bail, basically. You buy a bail bond so you can make bail without actually having to pay with it with your own money. And technically, the officer that signs you your ticket is technically the person that should pay your ticket. By law, if you co-sign something, you're only responsible to pay that something if if the person doesn't pay it initially. So technically, by you co-signing your traffic ticket, you are technically by law signing that if the police officer that gave you said ticket doesn't pay the ticket, you have to pay the ticket. It's common. It's a common occurrence. Okay. Technically, you don't have to sign. Technically, if you don't sign, they just give it to you anyway, and you technically don't have hold any liability because it's not a legally binding document. A legally binding document has to be signed by both sides. That's why my DD 214 without my signature is not a legally binding document. That is the point. You can't have a DD 214 that is not a legally binding document. Even a copy has to be a legally binding document. Without my signature, it is no longer legal, no longer valid, no longer anything. That's the point. It's not valid. So, please do like, comment, subscribe. This is probably going to be the first and only history video that I do because literally my brain is a jumbled mess, as you can see. And this was all improvisation. I did not have notes written down. This was all me recalling off of memory what everything was. Not me looking at a textbook or looking at Google. As you can see, my phone has been black the entire time. My internet connectivity is bad, so I do not even have access to the internet today to post this stuff. Uh, and I'm recording this on the 24th of February, but it's probably not going to be uploaded until I get internet back, which probably ain't even until tomorrow, maybe at the earliest. So please do like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.